Call the meeting to order. City of University Heights City Council meeting, December 13th, 2022, and the meeting is being conducted electronically by Zoom. I call the meeting to order. Four of the council are present. Stephanie Gahn is unable to attend tonight. First order of business, approval of minutes that were circulated by Mike, the November 8th minutes. Are there any additions or objections to the minutes? Hearing none, the minutes are approved by unanimous consent. Okay, we'll go on to comments from members of the public. Anyone from the public want to speak tonight? I don't see any members tonight. Do you, Mike?
Jerry's our only person, so.
Oh yeah, Jerry. Jerry's not on council. Jerry.
I'm from the public, yeah. And
Jerry, did you want to speak tonight?
no, I just like to say I'd like to thank the council for their work on these grants, and Jessica Johnson was very helpful and wanted to make this as smooth as possible. So thank you for getting this done, and thank you, Steve, for the help when it was needed.
It's nice hearing from you, Jerry. Thanks for that. We appreciate it. And the council did work hard on many meetings getting this pulled together, and it's a very good thing we can do for our businesses.
I understand it's going to be an annual thing.
Maybe. You'll have to check with the council. Thanks, Jerry. I hope we don't have annually COVID.
No.
Yeah, but
you might have to check with Congress.
Thanks, Jerry.
Jerry, for the minutes, just to make sure, tell me your address, your house number on Grand.
1434.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go on to Mayor's report, and I'd like to welcome Fiona Johnson here. She's director of the Johnson County Ambulance Service. Welcome, Fiona, and you wanted to give a presentation tonight.
Yes, thank you very much for having me. I am going to share my screen. Let me know when you can shrink down here.
Just a second, Fiona. I probably need to change my settings. Give me a second. There we go. Come on. Okay. Try now, please.
Ooh. Oh. They're asking me for something that does not look familiar to me. Bear with me 1 split second.
Sure.
Well, so I get for doing a PowerPoint from home. Normally I'm at work for this. I can even do it without all the slides, but maybe I could, what I could do is, Louise, can I quickly email you my PowerPoint? And then
You need to send it to Mike.
Mike, okay.
And
So
if you just send that to city-clerk at University-Heights.
Yep. Okay. Will you mind carrying on with the meeting and letting me send this over to him so I don't slow things down, because that stresses me out?
Oh, sure. I don't want to stress you out. I don't want to stress the ambulance director out, for sure. Legal report. Let's go. Consideration of resolution 2240. And this is to take care of some financial business. Steve, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I'm happy to. This is at the direction of Steve Cool, and there aren't any, appropriations or expenditures that the council is making here. This just sort of ratifies what the council has already done in this past calendar year, and sort of from an accounting standpoint, moves certain funds into certain other funds, which is required by Iowa law. And there's been some changes in that law in the last few years. And so Steve has as always, trued this up for us at the end of the year and made sure we had the resolution to adopt, so that when the auditors take a look, they can see everything's where it needs to be.
Okay, there's resolution number 2240 before the council. Is there a motion?
I'll motion.
Motion by Bobby. Is there a second?
I'll second, Louise.
Second by Lisa. Discussion. Okay, roll call vote.
Don is absent. Moore,
Aye.
Schroeder,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Swales. Aye. Motion carries 4-0.
Okay, and now we have, how are you doing with the PowerPoint?
Haven't
No.
gotten it yet.
Okay, we'll keep going to second consideration of ordinance number 251, regulating golf carts in city streets. Steve, you want to speak about that a little bit?
I'm happy to. Not much to add from last month. There were a couple of options that the council had. The council took a vote on the option and preferred with respect to young people being able to ride on carts and approved that. And after that vote, then the council went ahead and approved the first reading of the ordinance. So tonight is just the second reading of the ordinance. Under Iowa law, it takes 3 readings of the ordinance to adopt it and make it part of the city code.
Okay, so second reading of ordinance 251 is before the council. Is there a motion?
I'll motion.
Motion by Bobby and a second.
I'll
Second by Doug Swales.
Yes.
Okay, discussion. Okay, roll call vote.
Schroeder,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Swales,
Aye.
Gon is absent. Moore,
No.
motion carries 3-1 with 1 absent.
Okay, now we'll go down to any questions for Steve during his report or anything from his report? Did you want to make any comments, Steve? Any further comments?
The only thing I was going to say, again, picking up on last week, Mike Haverkamp and I will be getting with the zoning commission for a time post holidays. So after the first of the new year, after the first of the year, to start getting a date when the zoning commission could take up some of those issues that the council has asked the commission to weigh in on.
Okay, any further questions for Steve? Okay, we'll go on.
Well, I do
Yes.
have a quick question. I'm sorry.
Sure.
I was making a kind of a little page of not necessarily questions, but notes. Are you still taking comments on that, or did you get questions, or?
Thank you. I did not, and I haven't really regrouped with Mike, but I'm pretty sure if he would have sent them to me. So I don't really have any comments. As far as I know, if I missed something, I apologize. But yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. That is how we left it. That if people on the council or even from the public had comment or items that they wanted maybe the commission to take a look at, you can send those to me or to Mike, and we'll present those.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll go to the clerk's report, and Mike, you sent a detailed report.
I have, if we want to jump in, I have Fiona's PowerPoint ready to
Okay.
go, so we can move over to that.
Okay, very good.
Okay.
Thank you, Mike.
Oh, no problem.
While I can handle your medical and traumatic emergencies, if it's an IT emergency, I am not your person. So, all right. If you want to go into presentation mode.
There we go.
Perfect. So thank you all for giving me the opportunity to come and chat with you. You can go on to the next slide. I'm really going to be talking to you quickly about just kind of a medical issue that we see, you know, annually, and what community response we've got in place to help solve it. So studies show that 356, not even studies, data shows that 356,000 people die every year from sudden cardiac arrest. And that's clearly a problem that we need to address. And so one of the things that Johnson County, in collaboration with the Rotary Kerber Heart Safe Community Campaign, is that we're trying to increase our survival statistics. And studies show that communities that have an aggressive community campaign can actually have 60% of those lives that are normally lost to sudden cardiac arrest be saved. And the way that that is done is through aggressive campaign on community CPR, and then to have a dense AED network. Next slide. And so when you take into consideration how quickly we need to solve this slide kind of helps you kind of grasp that. So the top left-hand corner of that image there, you'll see a normal sinus rhythm. So that means that the heart is acting as a fully functioning pump. It has a normal heart rhythm, but then it quickly degresses into ventricular fibrillation. And so the heart is no longer acting as a forward pump. It is in a fibrillation mode. So it's really just kind of quivering and not being a fully functioning pump. And just in a matter of 9 minutes, if no CPR or the use of an AED is used, then the heart rate will move into a flat line. So it's now no longer functioning as a pump at all. And at this point, after 9 minutes, it's very unlikely that the heart will return to a perfusing state. Next slide. And so this really kind of shows how with every minute that goes by when no CPR or no AED is used, and when I say AED, I'm referencing an automated external defibrillator. So if no care is rendered when somebody is in sudden cardiac arrest, their chance of survival decreases by 10% with every minute that goes by. So if no care is rendered within the first 10 minutes that somebody is in cardiac arrest, their chance of survival is almost zero. Next slide. And so pretty much everybody is aware of the chain of survival, but what they're not necessarily aware of is that the first 3 links that you'll see on the screen there are really intended to be done prior to the arrival of ambulance, first responders, law, fire department. Those are meant to be done by your citizen responder. So we rely on the citizens in our community to recognize when there is an emergency. So to notice when somebody might be in a cardiac arrest state. So asking, okay, ask yourself the 2 questions that you need to ask. Is the person responsive? No. Are they breathing? Are they breathing normally or not breathing at all? And if again, the answer is no, then I need to call 911. So being able to recognize when it's emergent state and 911 needs to be activated. And then the second chain link in the chain of survival is then immediately starting CPR. And then that third one being accessing an AED if at all possible. And then the last 2 links are obviously that will occur with your first responder or your paid professionals. Next slide. And so that's where our plan comes into place. So again, the Rotary Kerber Heart Safe Community Campaign and Johnson County decided that we wanted to bring PulsePoint to Johnson County. And so what PulsePoint is it's a 911 Connect mobile application. So basically it is integrated into our 911 dispatch center. And so it's got 2 different things that are very helpful and life-saving about it. The first portion, which is the most important, is the life-saving application. And so let's say I have downloaded PulsePoint onto my phone and I have allowed critical alerts, which is a very important feature. And say I'm down in the Ped Mall doing some holiday shopping and somebody goes into cardiac arrest in the Ped Mall and somebody with them calls 911. Well, since PulsePoint is integrated into our 911 system, 911 will simultaneously page out first responders as always, so nothing changes there, no increased time. But since I have that application on my phone and I have indicated that, you know, I'm willing to help and I know CPR, then I'm going to get alerted to that person in the Ped Mall that needs CPR. My phone will give you a loud alert. it'll say, you know, CPR is needed, and it will then, I'll select guide me on my phone, and my phone will literally guide me to the location of that person in the Pedmo that needs CPR. So again, it's only going to alert me when I'm within a quarter mile of somebody that needs CPR. And so that's the life-saving aspect of PulsePoint. But then the everyday user portion of PulsePoint that's just handy to have on your phone is that it will tell you and show you emergencies occurring in your community in real time. So let's say I've got the application on my phone and I want to, let's say I'm in my backyard raking leaves and I see smoke in the air and I think, oh gosh, should I call 911? What if there's a fire over there and nobody knows? Well, I can open up the app on my phone and I can see, oh, there is a fire over there. It's a controlled burn and North Liberty's already on scene. Okay, I don't have to worry about it. Or let's say I'm heading to the mall to go see a movie and I don't want to be late. And so I'm gonna look at PulsePoint and I see there's an accident on the interstate. So I think maybe I'll just go through town. And so there's some very user-friendly, practical reasons for having PulsePoint, but then also the true necessity for the life-saving aspect that has the other portion of PulsePoint. Next slide, please. And so this is where really PulsePoint, it kind of empowers our citizens to be everyday superheroes. It's going to allow you to respond to those emergent situations. And this is only in the public setting. You're not going to get notified to somebody in their own home, in the private setting. It's really just for cardiac arrests that occur in the public setting. It will only notify you when you're within a quarter mile. And once you acknowledge that you're wanting to assist with CPR, not only does it guide you to that person, it will also tell you where the closest AED is, and then it will also tell you how to do CPR. So if, let's say, in the moment you're feeling a little anxious and you're like, I can't remember, what am I meant to do? How fast am I meant to go? There's actually a metronome built into the application, and it has the reminders as well. And then let's see, I think that's most of the details. I guess the one other important thing to note about this is a lot of people think that if they download the application and they indicate that they know CPR, that they have to have a certified CPR course. Like, you know, attend a class 3 or 4 hours long through American Heart Association or the Red Cross, and that's not the case. All you need to do is watch American Heart Association has a micro short video. It's maybe 45 seconds long. We could even send it to you and you could upload it onto your city council website. But it's just a very short video, and it means that you have watched the video, you understand what CPR looks like, and that you're willing to help, because really any CPR is better than no CPR. Another concern that people have is that they might be liable, that if they're afraid that they might hurt somebody. And the other thing to remember is that if you are a lay person providing CPR in a manner in which you were taught, then you are covered by the Good Samaritan Act. So you are not liable for injuring somebody. And ultimately, the important thing to know is that if somebody is in cardiac arrest, if you do nothing, they will stay dead. If you do something, then they might actually recover. And you'd much rather have somebody recover with a couple rib fractures than to not recover at all. Next slide, please. So it's nice to see that PulsePoint has actually data that we can pull from it to make sure that it is actually working and it's worth our time to implement here in Johnson County. And the good news is that it does work. And we're able to see from their data that citizen responders arrive on scene before first responders a solid 2 to 3 minutes on average. So if you're looking at the statistics, that when we're going back to the 10% survival rate, if we've got bystanders arriving on scene and rendering care 2 to 3 minutes prior to first responders, then that means that your chance of survival right off the bat right there is 20 to 30% increased. Next slide, please. So when we launched PulsePoint to Johnson County in February, we actually launched it on Valentine's Day. It was our gift to the county, which we thought was very, it was cute. It was, we acknowledge that. But the thing is that with PulsePoint Respond, there's also a sister app called PulsePoint AED. And PulsePoint AED is a registry of all of the AEDs in Johnson County. And it was great because when we uploaded all of these AEDs in the community, we were able to see that, oh, wow, there's like 320 AEDs, and we now have 390 registered. But at the time in February, we had about 320 registered AEDs, and we noticed that they were almost all in businesses Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. And so we're like, okay, well, that's not going to work because we don't live in the land where people don't have cardiac arrests after 5 p.m. because it's inconvenient because there aren't any AEDs available. So we've got to solve that problem. So what we did was Johnson County Sheriff's Department was getting new AEDs. And so they gifted us their gently used AEDs. We refurbished them. The Rotary Kerber Heart Safe Community Campaign purchased 20 AED enclosures. And I'm going to show you here in a minute how we decided where we were going to put these 24/7 AEDs. Next slide, please. So Johnson County Ambulance Service records all of our cardiac arrest data, and we upload it into a national portal called CARES, and that's the Cardiac Arrest Registry to Enhance Survival. And so this is a national database where we upload all of our cardiac arrest information. It's got no personal identifiers, so no names or addresses or anything, but we're able to see our cardiac arrest data and see how we compare to other services across the nation. On the left-hand side of the screen there, you'll see the red dots indicate all the different cardiac arrests that have occurred in our county over the past few years. On the right-hand side, you'll see all the locations of the AEDs in our community. And so based off of this data, we determined where we would have the most benefit of putting public access AEDs in our community. So with this data-based decision, we gave 5 AEDs and all-weather enclosures to Iowa City. We gave 3 to Coralville, 2 to North Liberty, and then every other smaller community in our county has either received or been offered an AED and AED enclosure. I've spoken to Mayor Fromm about giving an AED and an enclosure to University Heights. And so really part of this presentation is for you all to kind of hear the pitch, know that this is a gift. There are no strings attached other than that once we give it to you, it's yours to take care of. Just kind of make sure that your AED pads are not expired and that there's somebody periodically checking on the enclosure. The enclosure does need to have electricity, so that would just need to be installed by an electrician with 220 volt. But we'll go on to the next slide. These are what the enclosures look like. They are a code enclosure. So let's say you are driving a loved one to the hospital because they're having chest pain and they have gone unresponsive in your vehicle. You see one of these enclosures in your community, pull over, call 911. The dispatcher will give you the code to open the enclosure. The dispatcher will then give you CPR instructions and you'll be able to hopefully revive your loved one just by being in the proximity of this AED enclosure. These are also registered into the AED or the PulsePoint AED registry. So this might be the closest AED for somebody in the community that is a citizen responder. They might be at Kohl's. There is one of these enclosures right there at the intersection, and that might be noted to be the closest AED. Somebody could run down there, grab that AED, and then go and save a life. Next slide. Coralville was the first community to actually get their enclosures installed. I think we gave them to them last December, and they had them up before the holidays. So we'd like to really kind of promote how much support we've received from the community. Next slide. These are some of the locations that other cities in our county have placed theirs. Lone Tree, smaller communities, I'm really just letting decide where you think is the most beneficial location for you to have the AED. Really, we like it to be in a spot where you've got a lot of foot traffic, a lot of community members kind of nearby. So I trust that University Heights has a good idea on what that might be. You certainly have lots of opportunities of having many citizens pass through your community, especially on football Saturdays. We've got an AED on Kinnick. We've got actually, I think, 2 AEDs on Kinnick. We've got North Liberty has their 2, Tiffin has theirs on an athletic field. Lone Tree High School put theirs on their concession stand at their football field. And then Oxford Fire put it on the outside of their fire station. Swisher put it out on the outside of their community center. So really, With the bigger cities that have more of the cardiac arrests, we give them suggested locations based on where the cardiac arrests occur. But again, with the smaller communities, we want you to put it in a spot that you feel is most useful. Our only ask being that it is in an area outside a building, so it can be actually accessed 24/7. Next slide. So the other thing that you want to ask yourselves is, okay, so we're putting all these AEDs and enclosures in the community. Is this worth our while? Is this, actually going to actually improve survival from sudden cardiac arrest? And again, we love data, so we like to be able to look at the data and determine if it is truly worth our time. Holland is far ahead of us in regards to this type of program. They've got a very aggressive community campaign on CPR education and then also AED network in their community. So looking at their data, they had a large increase in bystander CPR when they put AEDs in public. The second columns, you'll see that you see more people actually surviving from sudden cardiac arrest, which is great. The third column is the absolute best, and that is good brain function. So not only are you surviving from your cardiac arrest event, but you're surviving to discharge from the hospital, and you're surviving with good neurological outcome. So you're able to actually continue to live a good life and not have any neurological deficit. Fourth column, you'll see that there is a decrease in shock by EMS providers. And you might think, well, is that right? Does that sound good? And the answer is yes, that's great news, because that means that those first shocks are being delivered by our citizen responders. They're being delivered by community members. And then that time to first shock is also decreased. And that's again, because our citizen responders are delivering those first shocks via those community placed AEDs. Next slide. So we've been, in addition to launching PulsePoint to the community, and again, there is a cost associated with that. Rotary Kerber paid the $10,500 implementation cost, and Johnson County is paying the $10,000 annual subscription for PulsePoint to be in Johnson County. The Rotary Kerber Heart Safe Community Campaign and Johnson County are partnering together again to really continue with the education side of things. So we're out in the community. I'm teaching the for-profit companies CPR. I just did Riverside Theater and the Iowa City Municipal Airport last week. The Rotary Kerber Club is doing the nonprofits, but we also do Iowa City Library. We're trying to get CPR mannequins into the public libraries as well, so then families can check out CPR mannequins and bring them home so their family can learn CPR as a family unit at home. We've taught Herky the Hawkeye some CPR along with the cheerleaders. We were part of the American Heart Walk and taught a couple hundred people CPR at that event. Next slide. And the University of Iowa Hawkeye basketball team. So if they're going to learn CPR, we all need to learn CPR. So we're out there in the community really trying to kind of change our survival statistics. And we're doing that through community awareness, community education, and then getting those AEDs out into the public. Next slide. I have also worked closely with the Iowa City Community School District. They just applied for Project Adam, which will allow them to become a heart safe school, which means that they have an appropriate number of AEDs in the school system, so that if a student were going to cardiac arrest, they could get pads onto that child within 2 minutes of them being in cardiac arrest. And then I have also applied for Johnson County to become a heart safe community on the county level. And so hopefully we'll hear in the next week or two if we have successfully completed that goal. Next slide. So really my ask for you all is to just, be willing to download PulsePoint, learn CPR, spread the word, and really kind of consider whether you'll be willing to accept the gift of the AED enclosure and the AED for your community. And I would love to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you, Mike, for being my slide attendant.
Thank you so much, Fiona. We're thrilled to get an AED outside of University Heights. And as you know, we have quite a few football fans in town, and you suggested places where that would be. But I did talk with Chief Kelsey about where we have AEDs now, and maybe you'd like to speak to that a little bit, Chief.
Sure. I was actually surprised that we didn't have more AEDs. The city of University Heights has 5 for the police department. That corresponds to the number of patrol cars. If patrol cars are in service, there's an AED in each of those cars, and the remainder at the police department. As Fiona pointed out, that's kind of good and kind of bad in our case, because if officers are out on patrol, the ones that are in the police department are not accessible to the public. They're in a locked building. The only other AED that I could identify in my survey in University Heights is at Horn Elementary. They have one just inside the front doors at their office area. Just some stats that you guys probably all are aware of. University Heights is 0.27 square miles, according to Wikipedia. We're also fortunate in that we have the Iowa City's West Side Fire Station there on Emerald Street. The Courtyard by Marriott is a little over half a mile away, and University Hospitals and the AEDs at Koenig are just across the bridge. So that's all fine and dandy, but when you're in the need of an AED, you can't run across the bridge to get one. So we don't have a lot of public spaces, and in conversation with the mayor, and it sounded like listening to Fiona's presentation, the idea is to put these on some sort of public space or space that's accessible. I don't know if that would be Triangle Place, or that would service both the football crowd. Potentially it would service Courtyard by Marriott if somebody was running over there. Again, given our footprint, University Heights footprint, if people registered for Pulse Point and downloaded the app, depending on where the event occurred in University Heights, almost everybody in the community would get notified of it, because we're 0.27 square miles, and anybody within a half a mile has it. So it has real benefit. We're a very fortunate community in the resources that we have, and police being right on top of it, and Iowa City Fire being right on top of any calls for service. But again, that's assuming that those officers, those firefighters, those units are available to respond. So I would rather be resource rich than resource poor, and I think we should take advantage of this.
Any other comments by anyone?
Does the new hotel not have one, or did I miss that?
Actually, there's been management turnover there. When I contacted Michelle today to confirm whether they did or did not have one, she's no longer with them. So I stopped down to speak with hotel staff. Current management was in a meeting, but no place is at placarded that they have an AED, and their staff is unaware if they do have an AED. So Fiona might be able to comment. I think she said that she had a map of where everybody was, but I don't believe that they do, Doug. And even if they do, if their staff is unaware of the location of it, or how to use it, or how to produce it for somebody who might work on it, it doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's in a closet or locked up somewhere if it's not accessible. So no, the only one in my survey that I could identify is Horn Elementary.
I see. Well, that's unfortunate, but yeah, I agree with you. A public location would be fantastic.
Louise, am I allowed to talk?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jerry.
No, it seems like a no-brainer. Somebody, and Fiona, you might be able to tell us what, for a community like University Heights, what's the ideal number that would be available to the community, and where would they be? And then what is the associated public education about this, which seems to be imperative if we want to make it effective?
Can I hop in here before Fiona answers? I was also very surprised that OUP North did not have one, given their Oak Knoll population, and given the retail area. Jerry, your business, Maureen's physical fitness business. I think that would be an ideal location for one also on the west side. I don't know where we put it.
Yeah, University Heights is in a position to have an ideal implementation, an ideal education outreach. And if we're going to do it, it would be wonderful to do it as well as it can be done.
Definitely. I don't have the statistics telling you like how many, like based off of like your geographical space, but I mean, ultimately you're going to want them in places like Troy just mentioned, you know, you want them in gyms, you want them in, you know, locations that you've got an older population, like high traffic areas, hotels. I mean, these are all kind of key locations. But you're right, that community education portion is the most important thing about this, because right now we have about 1.7% of Johnson County's population has downloaded Pulse Point. And the original goal from Pulse Point was to have 1% in your first year. That sounds so small. I really want a whole lot more. So, I mean, I'm happy to see that we're exceeding our expectations, but it still seems pretty low. And so I feel like we just need more, you know, community, you know, publicity about this. I mean, whether, because I mean, everybody so far, well, not everybody, majority of the communities have either received it or are in the process of receiving their AED. And we've done tons of publicity about Pulse Point. And so I'm curious, have any of you heard about Pulse Point before tonight?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Okay, that's good. That makes me feel good. So at least some of it's getting out there. So, but I think that, you know, if you've got any sort of like, if you've got a newsletter, if you've got your website, if you've got anything that is forward facing that we can put the information on. I also have tons of printed material. Really, I think getting that micro short American Heart Association, like CPR video out to the community members is super helpful. We did, I sent out a survey, a Qualtrics public health survey. I sent it out to a number of community partners, and I could send it to you all as well. And it takes maybe 45 seconds to complete. Actually, no, sorry, it's probably about 2 minutes, because embedded in this survey is that American Heart Association micro short video. And so it's asking you, you know, how do you know CPR? How comfortable are you doing CPR? Here, watch this video. How comfortable are you now? And then we're able to pull from that survey, you know, okay, do people actually feel more comfortable after watching it? And we were able to see that, yes, people did gain that confidence after watching that video. So if we can get that out to your community members, and then also that portion of letting people know that they're not going to be held liable, because that really scares people and they choose not to do anything out of fear. And American Heart Association is really pushing hands-only CPR, because when the pandemic started, nobody wanted to do mouth-to-mouth anymore. And I get it. Okay, so don't do mouth-to-mouth on adults. Just do hands-only compression. That is okay. That is better than absolutely nothing. Side note, kids need breaths. If kids go into sudden cardiac arrest, it's most often because of a respiratory event. But that's a different story. We're mostly talking about adults because thankfully they're the people that are going into cardiac arrest and not kids. So yes, lots of education. And I'm happy to send, I've got so much just kind of links and educational material that I'd be happy to share with you all. And then one more thing, the Rotary Kerber Heart Safe Community Campaign, they've got a program where they sell AEDs for, I think, gosh, $500 to a nonprofit entity, and then that comes with like an enclosure and the AED, and then the expectation is that you learn CPR, and then they also have a program to sell AEDs to for-profit agencies. So let's say if one of the businesses that you mentioned is interested in actually getting an AED, then I have a contact with the Rotary Kerber Heart Safe Community Campaign, and we could put them in contact, and hopefully they could get that AED into their business sooner rather than later.
Yeah,
We would be very interested in that.
Great.
As a
Yep.
business, yeah.
I'll send all that along.
So would you send that to Mike and then he'll get it out
Mhm.
to everyone?
Happily.
And Troy and I just started working on this. Would other people like to serve on this? Or, we could really get, I thought I saw an AED at the hotel, but once upon a time, I don't know. But
And I did too, Mayor, but when I stopped down today, nobody was aware of it. So
I see. I mean, but I understand. So we need to check some of these things out to see where everything's located. But this is something that we need outside, and it's not really for somebody at your home. It's for masses of people where they're walking and things like that. And in a public place maybe. But it's great to know there's these other programs so that we can hook up some of our businesses with these programs. So anybody contact me if you want to work on this some, or if you
Good.
have an interest in it. And
Just one more thing, Louise, if I can
yes.
ask Fiona. Fiona, you said you had lots of materials.
Mhm.
Is there a organized subset of those materials that can be easily exported to a community?
Yes, I'll send all the files over to you. It's already like preset for social media.
Okay,
So, I mean, if you look at Johnson County Ambulance Facebook page, I have put a whole bunch of the kind of promotional slides on there. It's kind of like did you know that this many people die from sudden cardiac arrest? Did you know that you can save a life? And so I've got all that, and it's just canned and all ready to go.
I think it's a great opportunity. I think, yeah, it was a great opportunity.
Any other questions for Fiona? This is such an important topic. I'm so glad you came and spoke about it. Thank you, Fiona.
Thank you so much for having me. I'll send Mike all the information. Otherwise, if anybody wants to email me at any point about this, I can talk about it all the time. Thank you for being patient with my IT issues. So thank you, everybody. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night. Okay, we'll go down to, we were at the clerk's report. So Mike, you wrote a detailed report. Did you want to comment?
Not a whole lot, just there is a point during finance where you'll be asked to just do a simple motion to approve the insurance quote updates for this year. And as Jerry mentioned when he came here, the ARPA stuff came through after I'd sent in my clerk report, but we do have all 4 businesses who were awarded ARPA grants have completed their grant materials form. And tonight in the warrants, you'll be approving your first reimbursement for Maggie's Farm, who has actually already spent their own money and is turned in materials so that they can be reimbursed for their project. So.
Thank you, Mike. Are there any questions for Mike? Thanks for going through the library history of how that works too. That was nice of you to put that in the report. Okay, we'll go on to the treasurer's report, and Lori submitted the warrants, as you mentioned, and the warrants, as he said, have Maggie's pizza there, and also has the leaf pickup. I saw that, the leaf vacuuming. Are there any additions to the list that anybody has? Is there any objection to paying the warrants? Hearing none, the warrants as listed will be paid and approved by unanimous consent. Thank you. Lori, did you have anything else?
I did not.
Thank you. We'll go on to Finance Committee. And Bobby, we have consideration of the Wellmark Health Dental Insurance that was in Mike's report. Did you want to comment or?
I mean, it's a roughly 5% or so increase, which I feel like is very reasonable considering, well, inflation was more than that. And so, yeah, I really don't have anything other than to say we should proceed with it.
So this is a simple motion, I think. Is there a motion to approve the insurance?
Yeah, I'll motion to improve that.
Okay, motion by Bobby. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Tim. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Motion carries 4-0 with 1 absent. Anything else, Bobby? I guess we need to start getting budget items to you when we get them.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
You'll be starting on that real soon.
You can wait till
We-
after Christmas.
That would be nice.
I'm just kidding.
I know. And, okay, anything else for Bobby? Any questions? Okay, we'll go to the chief's report, and you submitted a written report, chief.
I did. The only item I'd like to update on is item 2D, the traffic contact demographic data update. I did hear back from Dr. Chris Barnum. He anticipated completing analysis in late January. This is analysis of the 2020 data. I would have liked to be able to have had that and given you a report already, but he's just not completed it. He suggested, and it makes sense to me, he suggested that if I was able to provide him I'm sorry, that was the 2021 data. He suggested that if I was able to provide him our 2022 data in early January, that he could also do that analysis, and rather than do two separate kind of disjointed by time presentations, he could do one report, one presentation that addressed both the 2021 data and the 2022 data. And then he could also do whatever the meaningful comparison was. And to me, that makes sense. Ordinance requires, as I noted, ordinance requires that there's a report on each year's data, but it doesn't say that it can't happen at the same time. And I just think it would be more meaningful if he has that information, that we do it at the same time. And that way there's some comparative context, if you will. So if that's agreeable to everybody, I will let him know. And if you would rather have it as two separate presentations, we can do that also.
Okay, so it'll probably be ready for February. For
I'm not-
February's agenda, he said,
He said late January, so it'll probably be ready for February, but I'd hate to say that and then have it present, but I would say either February or the March at the latest. And as soon as I have the information, I will, let you and Stephanie and Mike know so they can get on whatever the next agenda is.
okay, sounds good. Any questions for Chief? Oh, I did want to comment about the summit. We really had nice placement with our sponsorship for that. And Chief, you've been involved in that so much. You were on a panel again this year. And, you just represent University Heights so well. And we're even going to have it maybe here next December, correct?
Correct. We are trying to do that. We're shooting for October next year. We'll see if that
Oh,
happens.
October.
I personally, and I'm staff, not city council, but I personally think, your hard work and your continued financial support is a very worthwhile investment. Betty, in particular, the president of the Iowa and Nebraska state chapters of the NAACP, but the organization is just very appreciative of it and repeated over and over again the community's leadership role in this particular area. They're not just thanking the community for its financial support, but they're holding University Heights up as a leader in addressing disparate policing, not just in Iowa, but nationwide, frankly. So just in there for what it's worth.
Thank you. Thanks for that. Awesome. Any other comments for Troy or questions? Okay, we'll go on to engineers report, streets and sidewalks, and there was Josiah and Ryan. Ryan and Josiah are both here.
Mayor,
Yes.
thank you. Couple updates. So there was a couple items that were in the warrants list that I talked about that was already approved, but one of them was the pay application for the bus landings that was put in this fall. Those look good. And last thing we'll have is some retainage on that, probably next month's meeting to close that out. I did also note there was a invoice in there from Advanced Electric. They repaired the traffic signal at the Melrose and Kosher intersection after it was damaged by a MetroNet contractor over a month or so ago. And so that was in there, and I wanted to point out that we're carrying over that invoice amount for that repair. And actually our work, coordinating that and trying to figure out what was going on into MetroNet's next permit fee. So it should be covered. Other than that, a couple maintenance items, talked to Russ. He did some patching on Melrose and Sunset here before winter. Replaced some signs at Melrose and Birkdale. And I got notified by Russ, another sign got hit up there by right across from City Hall at that median there. And so we've got new signs ordered for that, and Russ will put those up when he gets them. What else we have? We had Lumen or CenturyLink finally got around to repair on Kosher, and not much to report on the Finkbine Golf Course, the James on Melrose. Just a short note that we're anticipating revised plans from the development team at some point. I guess that's a follow-up. Back in November, ourselves and the city of Iowa City sent back quite a few comments to them. And so they're incorporating those, I would assume, before the next round. And then I just touched base on the report on the Melrose Complete Street project, that a lot of the survey data that's required, it's not very fancy stuff, but getting all the utilities located and elevations and base maps and property boundary lines, a lot of that work is getting close to wrapping up, which is a prerequisite before you start impacting the roadway and everybody. So that's our update at this time. Are there any questions on
What's the time?
what's going around or happening?
What's the time of the update on the James project?
What's the time of it?
Yeah, what are they saying their timetable is for start or completion?
That's a good question. We don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, we haven't had a really good sense of what direction they're going or what the timeline is. I mean, at this point, I would expect they'd have to get on the horse pretty quick if they're going to get something started next year before winter hits again.
Any other questions for Josiah, Ryan? Doug, did you have anything to add?
No, other than I see the sand barrels are now out in place. Look like Mark's got those all set. I've been talking to, I need to get with Josiah, a company that does mud jacking, and see if we can't see if some of these street repairs we're looking at, if we can go cheaper on and better fix on some of these streets that have sunken panels. But try to set up a time when I can meet with Josiah and this contractor to see if that's a direction we can go or should go or want to go. So just kind of want to roll it around. So I'm trying to coordinate that, and I'll get back to you, Josiah, when I get something set up when you're available.
Doug, you
Okay.
jogged my memory when you mentioned sand barrels. I was trying to coordinate with Mark. There was a question if the sand barrel at the intersection of George
Oh.
and Kosher was at the right location.
Yeah, it's all worked out now. It's
Oh,
all
okay.
worked out. Thank you. Thanks.
Yep. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Thank you for helping with that. But Mark Phelps went out, and as you can see, if you drive around the city, he has some, what are they, blue?
I think they're blue.
sticks? Blue sticks, kind of partially blue sticks, and that's to mark the sewer intakes. The intakes so that if there is some snow and it's really high, I hope not, but I'm going to say it softly, they can find them most easily because they know approximately where they are. But sometimes when we have heavy snows, you have to really dig around. And so he went and did that, and he checked on the sand barrels, and we discussed that, and it's all been fine.
And then
So-
also we probably are looking at adopting a fire hydrant again if we start getting deep snow. You know, last year the Officer Burkema and I think Chris Akers, I believe, and probably Chief as well, all dug those out. I don't know if we could give little gift cards to encourage our locals to maintain their fire hydrants for accessibility.
Well, there's, Lisa had put some things on had just recently put some things on the website.
Oh, okay, I didn't see
And
that.
so look through her report. I mean, it's very recent. And so, talking to people about that. So, yeah. Anyway, yeah, did you want to comment, Lisa?
Well, yes, because
Thank you.
it's not quite recent yet. It will be recent in the next couple of days.
I guess I've been
will post.
reading a lot
Yes.
of things, but I guess you hadn't yet put it on the website. Okay.
Yes, I've asked Louise to read over some. And I was kind of trying to avoid using the adopt a hydrant approach because I think people don't feel comfortable committing to something like that, but they'll take a shovel and go clear something once in a while. I have noticed that the one that I adopted, sometimes I go down and somebody else has shoveled it. So I don't mind it's not really up to me, but if people want to adopt something, but it's more like it's kind of your community service, civic duty, whatever you want to call it. You have a hydrant near you, clear it. If you don't, walk down and find one to clear. Or if you want to talk to Officer Brinkema about it, I'll put his contact information. But I don't want people to feel like, well, I don't have to clear it. I shouldn't be doing this because somebody might have adopted this one. So Troy, I was going to talk to you sometime about that, but
Does that sound reasonable, Doug?
Yeah, yeah. No, if Lisa wants to pay everybody $100 a hydrant, I'm okay with that.
yeah, were you going to send me a check for the last?
Okay. Okay, let's move on to building, zoning, and sanitation. Tim, did you have anything today?
No, nothing to report.
Okay. We'll go to e-government, and Lisa, you circulated a report.
Yes. I don't really have anything to add. Unless somebody else wants.
Okay, very good. So are there any announcements anyone wanted to make? Happy holidays. Is there any objection to adjournment? Hearing none, the meeting's adjourned by unanimous consent. Thanks.